oh man, there's this huge construction zone in the brain which is completely not optimized at all. And nowadays there is technology, and you can actually go into this and start tuning it using technology. Maybe share some quick impressions about. You mentioned the 40 Years of Zen program, which I'm also very familiar with, but the listeners may not even heard about any of this. So maybe in a very quick, in a nutshell, to share about the feedback on this one.
Excellent. So kudos to, I think, one of the fathers of modern neurofeedback, which is Dr. Hart, who runs a facility in Sedona, Arizona called BioCybernaut. And both Dave and myself were students of him. Basically, he was hooking up, he had built some algorithms that hooked up to your brain and could measure brain responses in the body. And we began going to these week-long courses so that we could improve cognitive function, emotional availability, things like that. And the shifts in perception were great. Basically, it was using a silicon brain to give you feedback on your carbon brain. So how do you watch your brain if you're entering mindfulness? And what Dr. Hart was able to discover is that you could get, with this kind of technology, you could advance your meditation by decades. In a quarter of a week, because now you have a way of, when you're entering the right states, to be able to monitor that and then course correct. Dave went on and expanded that operations in 40 Years of Zen to offer a variety of more expansive choices, particularly related to, I think, digital executives. I'm a regular student. I go every 6 months up to Dave's place and get that, and he's done a great service of that. While we were doing that, though, we also realized that there's a third element to this. And that was not just the practice and not just the feedback, which was increasing the connections, was in the actual production of the neurochemicals that allowed for faster connections or more intense connections, or an expansion of the possibility of connections to different parts of the brain. So we started using a variety of nootropic substances in order to enhance this. And that then led to the development with one of our researchers who we call Mr. Newts, which is a company called Nootopia. The problem that people have with their brains is you have a variance in neurotransmitter dominance. This is determined, you can take a Braverman test and see which neurochemical dominance that you have. Charles Poliquin was a coach of gold medal athletes, 27 different sports. He won gold medals on his students. And he used to test people for neurocognitive biochemical dominance. And if they had certain traits, that would determine how often and how frequently he could train them, because he knew how fast they could recover. So it turns out when it gets into, regular humans, not gold medalists, you have somewhere around 8 dominant factors, and they work in different in combinations. So it's not one single point. And so what we went about doing is developing a host of neurochemical options, nootropics, that would be curated individually for each person's brain, because each person's brain is different. And then further allowing our chemists, through feedback that the person provides, to give them individualized, customized nootropic blends. Because what would happen is, if you're reliant on, say, drugs like Adderall and things like that, you actually end up in neurochemical burnout. What we wanted to do is to organically flood the system with the appropriate neurochemicals that were being used, so that you had a deeper reserve to extend your cognitive capabilities. And that's what we do. So it's really fun.
Oh,
That company's Nootopia. So